Words of Sri Aurobindo from the book The Mother, from the collective works of Sri Aurobindo, volume 32, page 297, topic The Mother's Help in Difficulties, subtopic The Difficulties and the Mother's Force. Question: is there no way for me to follow your path happily? I will not be able to do anything for the mother in this life, so I simply try to stay away from the defects of previous lives. Why can't I understand anything? Why can't the mother pull me towards her? What is it I feel hurt about and worry about? Can you explain it to me? For this, Sri Aurobindo says, all this is of no utility. Complaining, questioning, etc. of this kind should be put aside. You have to go on quietly, without depression or trouble, receiving the mother's force, allowing them to work, rejecting all that stands in their way, but not troubled by difficulty or defects in yourself, or by any delay or slowness in the working. Sri Aurobindo says, this kind of grief, despondency, are the worst obstacles one can raise up in the sadhana. They ought not to be indulged in. What one cannot do oneself, one can get done by calling the mother's force. To receive that and let it work in you is the true means of success in the sadhana. Do not brood over your difficulties. Leave them to the mother and let her force work them out of you. Sri Aurobindo says, in such conditions, try to remain as quiet as possible within, and if you cannot, call the mother, think of her, and expect the help of the force. These attacks, says Sri Aurobindo, these attacks are always on the outer part of the consciousness, covering up the inner being. One should always try to detach, separate from the inner being, and look at the attack as a moment of the surface. Sri Aurobindo says, we will send you help so that you may get rid of the obstruction, but never allow this idea, I am not able to, I am not going to, I am not doing enough, to come and vex you. It is a tamasic suggestion and bringing in all sorts of negativity. It brings in depression. Depression opens up the way to the attacks of the wrong forces. Your position should be, let me do what I can. The mother's force is there. The divine is there to see that in due time all will be done. Sri Aurobindo says, whatever difficulty has come across, keep your faith and reliance on the mother and lay open whatever opposes from outside or within to the working of the mother's force. Question: many times I feel hatred towards my own self because I neither have the ability nor the skill in me to do anything. I start doing some work and then leave it undone. I have no perseverance. What is the reason for this? For the Sri Aurobindo says, these come from a certain restlessness in the vital. Most people put a control of the will on these things and try to get rid of them in that way, but they disappear fully only when the inner being is awakened and a new force of the Divine Mother begins fully to work on the nature. Sri Aurobindo says, do not admit these suggestions of despair or impatience. Give time for the mother's force to act. Whatever difficulties still remain, be sure that they will be surmounted. There is no need for the outer being to be nervous. The mother's force and the devotion within you will be sufficient to overcome all that stands in the way. Next topic, difficulty and the mother's grace. Sri Aurobindo says, you must throw all that away. Such depression can only make you shut to what mother is giving you. There is absolutely no reason for such an attitude. The existence of difficulties is a known thing in the yoga. That is no reason for questioning the final victory or the effectivity of the divine grace. Question: can it be believed that the mother's grace is acting even when the difficulties do not disappear? For the Sri Aurobindo says, in that case, everybody might say that all my difficulties must disappear at once. I must attain to perfection immediately and without difficulties. Otherwise, it proves that mother's grace is not with me. Sri Aurobindo says, you should not yield to sorrow or despair. There is no reason why you should. The Divine Mother's grace has not been withdrawn from you even for a moment. Do not allow the attacks of others to shake you like this. You know very well the motives from which they act, and for the rest, they are not going to pursue any further the course which a fit of passion dictated to them. The protection is always with you and will be with you, and you need not fear or sorrow any longer. Put your trust in the divine and shake off all this like a nightmare that has passed. Believe that our love and grace are always with you. Next topic, turning to the mother for help. Sri Aurobindo says it is the physical mind that feels too inert, but if some part of the being turns to the mother, that is enough to bring the help. Question. I feel a sense of tiredness, depression, sadness, but all the same I stick to you. I'm quiet sometimes, but I feel sad. What should I do? For the Sri Aurobindo says, remain firm, turned in one direction towards the mother. Next question. The sense of sadness and depression does not want to go. Comes and goes as it likes. Tell me what to do. For the Sri Aurobindo says, when the habit of these moods of depression or revolt has been formed, they cannot be got rid at once. There are 3 ways of doing it. To strengthen your own will so that nothing can come or stay as it likes, but only as you like. Second, to think of something else, plunge the mind into something healthy activity. Third, to turn to the mother and call in her force. One can do any of these or all, but even in doing them, it will take a little time to get rid of the habit. Sri Aurobindo says, the one thing necessary is to be turned to the mother, and that is all that is needed. Do not fear or be sad, but let the mother do quietly her work in you and through you, and all will be well. Personal effort and the mother's help is the next topic. The mother's help, says Sri Aurobindo, the mother's help is always there for those who are willing to receive it. But you must be conscious of your vital nature, and the vital nature must consent to change. It is no use merely observing that it is unwilling and that when thwarted it creates depression in you. Always the vital nature is not at first willing, and always when it is thwarted or asked to change, it creates this depression by its revolt or refusal of consent. Sri Aurobindo says you have to insist till it recognizes the truth and is willing to be transformed and to accept the mother's help and grace. If the mind is sincere and the psychic aspiration complete and true, the vital can always be made to change. Sri Aurobindo says, as for the feeling of people that there must be something bad in you, it does not arise merely from your relationship with anyone. The mother and I do not speak of good and bad in this way. We only look at what helps or what hinders the sadhana. There is nothing in you that is not in any of other sadhaks. What makes people hesitate to help you is your subjection to the vital moods. All this weepings, self-starvation, uncertain temper, your unsteadiness for today, you accept help, tomorrow you reject it. If you want to get in your sadhana, if you want people to feel comfortable with you and ready to help you, you must get rid of the vital moods and defects. You must put a control on yourself and try to change. The mother's force is always there to help you, but there must be your active consent and cooperation and your own steady will and endeavor to do it. These are the words of our Lord Sri Aurobindo.